Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you guys to Megan. She's the front woman from the band VEXED. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely my pleasure. Yeah, like I said before I hit record, thank you for doing this. It's been a while since I wanted to get you in, so it's really good. First saw you guys. You supported In Flames, in
Cool. What
Brighton,
venue? Brighton, yeah.
Concord. And that was like the first gig we went to. Me and my wife went to outside of lockdown and everything. So
Wow.
it was a very weird experience, but it was a really good. You guys were really, really fucking good, and I've been following you ever since. Um,
Thank
with the first album, which I've got a copy of somewhere in this
you.
room here. And then you guys we're going to talk about it, but the new album, Negative Energy, which came out just shy of a month ago, wasn't it? Now, as of
Oh yeah, I think it's a month tomorrow or something like that.
yeah, that's crazy. It's like a newborn. Um,
Yeah.
but you guys, you're on Napalm Records, so if people want to go find that album, they can do it right now. They can stop this podcast and go do that and listen to it. It's fantastic. But we're gonna have a chat about it if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
Well, first of all, what I want to do, just so for my own sake and for some of my listeners, because they're based, I've got a big following over in the States because I used to live over there and I used to, that's where
Oh,
I started
cool.
this podcast and everything. But just to get an origin story on the band, because I know you formed it around 2019, and sort of went there, but I just want to get like a bit more to that story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So me, Willem, and Jay, so drummer and guitarist, we sort of grew up, all of us in like little local bands. And then we ended up being in a band together. They joined one of my bands that had so many lineup changes that it was just ridiculous. And I don't know how many drummers and guitarists we've had, but they ended up in the band. And then we all got along really, really well. We just meshed really well. But after a while, we realized that the music that they were having to play, it wasn't stuff they'd written, so they weren't enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I had gotten so fed up with the music as well that we just ended up really kind of like resenting the band and the music.
Okay.
So we got to a point where we're like, okay, we can either keep flogging this dead horse or just like stop and start again. And obviously that was quite a scary thing to do because although we hadn't gotten really far, we had spent quite a few years making our name for ourselves in the last band. So that, we weren't happy. It didn't feel authentic. So yeah, we decided New Year's Eve to just sort of kill off the old band and start VEXED. And yeah, 2019 New Year's Day, we went for it. And we met Al, our bassist, through just like touring, like local gigs and stuff like that. We met him at a festival that we do every year. And yeah, we persuaded him to come on tour with us to Europe. And by the end of the tour, he was like, these guys are crazy, but they're my kind of crazy. And he joined. So yeah, it's really just sort of quite a nice, simple story. There's nothing
Yeah.
complicated to it. I think it came from just all of us having a really solid friendship and knowing that we had something special there. So we may as well start something that was fully ours instead of, bits and bobs of old stuff.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, a nice simple story. So
Yeah.
it's all good. Um, so I mean, right now you're I feel like you're part of this wave of this new UK. I'm going
Mm.
UK talent here. Because there's a whole plethora of bands worldwide doing stuff, but the UK is really creating something at the moment that I haven't seen for I want to say 10, 15 years.
It's
Just
doing good, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like it's a way like you guys, you've got bands like Trash Boat, Seething
Mhm.
Akira, Nova Twins doing absolutely massive things, Wargasm doing massive things. Uh,
Yeah.
Gold, I mean, Sleep Token, where the hell did they come from? I know they've been
Yeah.
around for a while, but they've just kind of exploded over the past like 6 months. And it's being led by bands that when I was in a band, was sort of starting off then, which has been absolutely fun because I was in a band back 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were part of like the new bands that kind of like formed out like Enter Shikari, Bullet for My Valentine,
Yeah.
Skin Dread, Bring Me the Horizon, stuff like that, bands like that. And I mean, those examples right there have gone off to do massive things, but they're bringing a lot of attention to that UK scene, I feel.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm excited about. I'm loving it because they like, it's how it should work. It should be bringing on the next generation, not to take over from them, but just to sort of bring up other talent, to push them, to push you, to push, you know, everything. And I mean, I don't know if you feel that or not. I mean, it's sort of, I mean, you're on my list of these bands that are coming through. but, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, you know, you can put pressure on yourself thinking about that and stuff, but I don't know if you've like sort of realized that you're part of that group and part of that movement at the moment.
I don't think we do. I don't think we do feel like that. I think we still feel very kind of under the radar, so to
Okay.
speak. I think other bands, you know, have been doing so well that it sometimes feels like nobody knows who you are. But then like I have to like snap myself out of it and remember that that isn't exactly true. You know, we've made some great friends and done some amazing like shows and had great opportunities on like supporting bands and things like that. So I think when we really look at it, we definitely have made some like great memories and had some great opportunities. But when there are so many bands that are doing so well, you do sometimes get a bit bogged down thinking, oh, we're still not good enough, we're still not big enough. But I think that self-deprecation thing is just a musician thing anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, that it definitely is. It doesn't go either, unfortunately. But how? I mean, how did the relationship with Napalm come to fruition? Because they're obviously, I know they're an independent label of sorts, but they're also a big label of sorts. They've got a very eclectic kind of like roster, if you will,
Yeah,
across
yeah.
the rock and metal spectrum. And I've had a few other Napalm bands on my show over my time
Mm.
doing this. Um, but yeah, how did that like sort of come about? Because like obviously you said you guys were in other bands,
Mm.
formed, this new band, and then I think was it 2001 you released oh god, Culling Culture?
2021, yeah.
2021, sorry, brain fart
That's
there.
all right. I
Ah.
would have been that would have been amazing if I'd released something in 2001.
Sorry. But yeah, I mean, how did that, because that came out on Napalm as well.
Mhm.
But
It was
how did that come about?
honestly, it was just like I want to say it was loads of hard work. It was on our side. We'd written and recorded an album, but then it was just pure luck because we'd written the album Color Culture, we had it ready, and then we were desperate to have a record label release it because we didn't want to do it independently. We'd been doing that for years in our old bands, and it's such hard work, it's such hard graft, and unless you have friends in high places or good contacts or a huge amount of money to put behind it, it's a really difficult thing to get noticed. So we were like, we're really proud of this debut, we want to have a label backing it. So we were just sending it to every label that we could think of,
Yeah.
and our manager was sending it out, and just out of a bunch that actually replied was Napalm. And they didn't just reply being like, oh yeah, we'll like it, we'll think about it. They replied with a contract, and they were just like, we want to sign you. So it was really overwhelming and honestly luck, because the right person heard it at the right time on the right day.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important for bands to remember, is that, you know, keep working hard and just keep making people listen to your
Yeah.
music,
No,
keep
that is
pestering people, keep shoving, yeah, because eventually the right person will hear it.
exactly. And that's something that's been like, that's a bread and butter sort of like record industry thing to do. If you're like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of bands out there, like you said, but there's a lot of bands that kind of want the was it the viral, I suppose, the viral release, and then try
yeah.
and do it that way and make as much on it as possible, become as big as possible in the shortest amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about getting it out there. It's about getting
Yeah,
people to listen, make people listen. I mean, you set, like when I was in a band, I was wearing the band T-shirt. You have to be your own billboard to start with.
yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. And it's the same with listening, because you if you're not passionate about the music, I mean, you can
Mm-hmm.
be that kind of like reclusive artist, which can work. as well.
Yes.
Um, but sometimes
You
if
should have someone promoting it, even if you are the reclusive,
yeah, exactly. So you need someone who's passionate, and it usually best. I find it best coming from the artists themselves because it puts them out there. It makes them vulnerable. I mean, you know that from getting reviews and things like that from people saying, "Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I hate it." It's that, but you've got to take both sides of it. That's
You
what
do.
another thing people have got as well. I'm trying to instill in young bands. But it's yeah, no, definitely there needs to be hard work and stuff, and obviously it's sort of, getting signed to Napalm is no little thing. um
No.
as sort of like wide as their roster is, they are a very active label, from all
Yeah.
accounts, from what experience I've had with them and stuff. I mean, I get obviously music sent from them to me,
Mhm.
multiple people, all their PR agents,
Yeah.
directly from the label. So they're pretty good. They're very active, which is very important, especially like, I do radio, I do club DJ clubs and stuff like that as well. So it's important for me to have this music so I can play it to people.
Mm.
So yeah, just a very active label. That's very cool. Um,
Yeah.
but let's get to the album. Um,
Yes.
Negative Energy. It came out last month, so people can
Hmm.
go and get it now. Well, let's go through the album. I mean, initially released 3 tracks from it. Uh,
Yeah.
you had, not in any particular order, you had Anti Fetish, Trauma, Euphoria, and Cross My Heart, Hope to Die.
Yes.
Those are the 3 main tracks from it.
They are the three main singles. Yeah.
Cool. I really like There's No Place Like Home
Oh,
uh,
thank you.
album.
Cool.
And It's Not the End as well. I found that really good.
Thank
But obviously it's quite a dark album.
you. Hmm.
It does trigger a lot of like emotives or emotions from it.
Yes.
I'm sure it does for you, obviously writing it and everything. But if
Mm.
you go just go through the album, what was the sort of like the story behind it, or the plot? Was there just like a particular like thing running through the whole album, or is it just a collection of stories, if you will, or collection of experiences?
So we were planning on like releasing and writing and releasing something a lot sooner, but we released our first album, Culling Culture, sort of during the pandemic, and we like delayed releasing that for almost a year as well. So everything felt very slow and backlogged. And then during the pandemic, I lost a parent, and everything just kind of, on a personal level, just hit rock bottom. And my partner Willem, he's lost one of his grandparent, and another member of the band lost a parent, and we were all just so devastated and kind of brought back to almost like a childlike place, because when you lose a parent, you're just suddenly left in this position of, oh my god, I've got to adult now, and I've got to do everything by myself, even down to the simplest things like I needed to get my car tax renewed and I didn't know how to do it, and just silly little things that you take
Yeah.
for granted. And so we were all just in these really dark, depressing, vulnerable, emotional places,
Yeah.
trying to write music, and it just wasn't happening. So we decided to just delete everything that we had and start again. And we went into the mindset of negative energy, of just putting literally all our negative energy into it, because it was all we had. Like, trying to write and find inspiration when you're in such an awful headspace is so difficult. And we're the kind of people, or I am especially, where I try and always find the bright side to things. I always put like a positive spin or like a meaningful message behind, a hard thing that's happened.
Yeah.
But this time I couldn't find it. And I just needed to vent about how terrible things had been without trying to make everybody else feel better.
Yeah.
And yeah, this album is kind of just our grieving process and all the things that come with losing a loved one. And then, there's a couple of other topics dashed in there for good measure, like how corrupt the music industry is and things like that. Because when you get to a point where you've lost everything, you just feel like, you know what, I don't care anymore. I'm going to say exactly how I feel about everything.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it was almost like a way of processing the grief and the loss. And yeah, that's where it come from. It is literally all our negativity put into one album, which is why it is a very dark album.
Yeah, I was wondering why I connected with it so well. I over the past year has been awful for me, and my wife, she lost both her parents in the
Oh,
space of 3 months, and yeah, it's been incredibly difficult. So that sort of dark aura, I'm very much aware of, and being a
yeah,
creative person like yourself as well, I have channeled various negative things into various musical and things that I've not released them, but it's
yeah,
a great therapy.
yeah.
And like I said, when I was in an active band as well, there were moments where I went through various things,
Mm,
trauma, breakup, stuff like that, and
yeah,
it is a great way of getting out that without causing yourself too much harm anyway.
yeah.
um
It's
um
a healthy outlet. It's a healthy way of processing,
yeah,
you know, things that we're not very good at processing.
yeah,
I'm terrible at not being okay. I am so rubbish at just being upset. I don't like people to see that I'm sad. I don't like to cry in front of people. So, when you get to a point where things are bad and you actually need to do those things, but you can't, writing songs and doing anything creative can be a really good way of processing it.
yeah. No, definitely. And there's a lot to be said about, like, general therapy, just going to speak to someone or talking to someone
Cool.
about it, but actually being able to do it and processing it in that way as well, because you can do it in such a way that you know as much as it's helping you, it's helping others as well. There's a lot
Yeah.
of other people out there in that space where, and they don't know how to express themselves.
Hmm.
And I connected with some of this, and it was just like, that's why. I didn't know the stories behind this album or anything like
Hmm.
that. I always keep that a secret for myself before I chat to people. So but I could tell it's from a very dark place, just
Yeah.
generally, like, just picking up on some of the lyrics, some of the words, and the general feeling of the music. It puts you
Yeah.
in that space, but also coming out of that, like, after listening to it, it does make you
Mhm.
feel there's like a slight weight lifted.
That's really good to hear. That's really nice to hear because that's how we feel as well. You get into the deepest, darkest, like dregs of your feelings, and then at the end, you do actually feel somewhat lighter.
Yeah, it's just purely because it's processed. Like, there's some ways that, you know not everyone grieves the same, and not
No.
everyone quite understands the process. Or but then when someone else mentions something, everyone says, oh, you'll get over it, you'll get through it, eventually. Or but sometimes it just takes those words to
Yeah.
unlock. Oh, that's it, that is it. you
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
that's how I feel. And then that kind of, like I say, it lifts you slightly. And I got that from this album. I listened to it a few times, in the car, and
Yeah.
in my room, stuff like that, in here in the studio.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it's yeah, you've definitely kind of hit the nail on the head with it.
Thank you. That's really,
um
really nice to hear.
from just from not knowing what the topics were on there. But I am sorry for your loss.
I'm sorry for your guys' loss. It's a horrible thing, but yeah, hopefully we'll get through it with this music thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely it does help. Well, it helps me.
It
So
does help me.
we're all different on that front. But I mean, yeah, like I said, the album's out now. How's it been received generally? Because you've had it out for a month now. I know I've never really been interested in the press side of it, but I mean, like, from a sort of fan point of view, how has that been received?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's so good. And we were so like, we really didn't know what to expect because our first album and this one are so different. This is a lot heavier, a lot darker, a lot less technical and more sort of like it's almost creating a space that you're in and experiencing as opposed to just kind of like creating a song by song type album. It's I think the second you hit play on this album, you can feel like a claustrophobic kind of um world or atmosphere. So yeah, it's very different to the first one. And so we thought, oh God, it might not go down well because it's so different. But I think because we're always very like open and candid with our fan base and friends, they knew what we'd been through. And so I think they were expecting it. Um, and yeah, they just took it amazingly well. And a lot of people connected with it, which again was really strange, because I think when you're going through such a difficult thing or grieving, you think that nobody else can understand the pain you're going through, and then suddenly there's actually loads of people who have been through exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's really not nice, but it is kind of comforting to know that people actually really understood it and related.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been incredible.
Excellent. That's good to hear. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to say it's been awful, but it was, because that would have been really bad. I didn't really think that through. But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, it's a good album. I didn't have really much doubt in my mind on that front that it had been like badly received or anything. But it is a fantastic album, and I hope it does you really well. What's the what are your sort of plans for the rest of the year? Have you got any sort of like shows lined up, or even into next year?
Yeah, so we've got a headline tour. We haven't announced it yet, but we are doing a headline tour at the end of this year.
Cool.
Just a few like key cities throughout the UK, just so we can actually play, you know, not just the singles, other songs off the album, and, you know, bring it to our fans. So we're going to do that. We've got a couple more festivals we're doing. And then next year we have got some touring plans, but it hasn't been announced yet either. So it's gone from being very quiet to things looking a lot healthier on the live front, and we're very excited about it,
I was
because
going to say, because on your website I only saw one festival on there, and I was like, there's got to be more.
yeah. Yeah, the last few months have just been awful, like trying to find things to do and book things up. But yeah, we've had some really nice tasty emails come in, so yeah, things are looking up, which is good.
When can we expect the announcement of the headline tour?
Next couple of weeks, I'm thinking. Yeah.
Cool.
But if this goes up before, it's fine. I think people know.
That's all right. I mean, like I said, we haven't announced the dates. We haven't. We just said later this year, so it's fine.
Of course, yeah.
But no, I'll try and catch you guys at one of those shows if you're nearby.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get out to as many shows as possible, because after the lockdown and all that kind of stuff, we're looking to sort of, you know, have more experiences, not just for me and my wife, but with the kids as well. We've taken them out to shows and stuff. So
Yeah. Do they like heavy music?
for the most part, yes. They've kind of taken a turn into K-pop at the moment.
Oh, that's
So
sweet. Yeah.
it's kind of, and sort of one of them's into, how you would it sort of call it, like kind of singer songwriter kind of, um have you heard of Phoebe Bridgers?
That rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they went to go see her. A couple of other sort of like people that came big over like YouTube and stuff. Ricky
Yeah.
Montgomery, I think, was one of them.
Oh,
I took one of them to see Panic at the Disco a few months ago.
amazing.
They love that. It's not heavy, but it is kind of in some places, but it's not like extremely heavy. But
No, but
they
with
want to come
little.
they want to come to heavier shows. So this is the thing.
Oh,
So we'll get them there.
yeah.
I've just got to make sure they're ready for it. So
Yeah.
but they've watched videos of me when I used to be in a band and stuff, and they kind of know what to expect, because mine was a sort of like heavy, screamy. It was a new
Yeah.
band actually. So
Oh,
back
that's
in
it.
the
I love
day.
you now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I was the DJ, as you. I got turntables before.
Ah,
I was a DJ in
amazing.
a metal band about 15,
Yeah.
20 years ago. So, and we did all right.
That's
We got in all the magazines and all that kind of stuff at the time. So we had our 5 minutes. But yeah, they're sort of priming for that, but they're also going to a lot of I know they're Taylor Swift fans as well. So
oh,
we managed to get them tickets for next year's show at Wembley.
amazing.
So that was a hard slog, but we got them for them. So
Yeah, you got them.
they're happy. My wallet's not, but you know, it's one of those things. One of those things. But I've got a couple of last questions for you, if that's all right. And then I'll
Of
let you get
course.
with your Saturday night and everything. But what are your what 3 albums can you pinpoint as sort of pivotal in your life? Now, not necessarily like favorite albums,
Hmm.
like the sort of like ones that you first heard and you're like, oh wow, I want to be in a band, I want to be a singer, I want to do this. Do you know what bands or albums that really triggered that for you?
So the three that instantly come to mind are System of a Down.
Yeah.
Toxicity, that album is just, I love it. It's one of my favorite like new metal albums, I suppose. I don't know what you'd call them, alternative metal, whatever, just weird sounding metal.
Yeah.
Ever. Who else? It would have to be Bring Me the Horizon, Suicide Season. That was the album that got me into like deathcore, and that was the album that made me want to be a vocalist, because for years I just wanted to be a drummer. I say just, I wanted to be the drummer, but I was terrible. So yeah, when I listened to that, that was like, okay, I want to be a vocalist. And then the third one would have to be, I probably think Iowa, Slipknot.
Nice.
Yeah, again, just my love for like metal really started off in like the new metal, new core kind of world.
Nice.
And so Corey's sort of crazy, breathy, retching kind of like vocals was just so cool to me. It wasn't clean, it wasn't crisp, it wasn't polished, it was just manic.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was another vocalist, another reason why I wanted to do vocals. So yeah, that would have to be the three, I think.
Wow. It's a solid 3. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
That was huge, that album for System of a Down, especially. That was like
Mhm.
that, because their first album was great, but it was badly press received. Like,
Yeah.
it was like, I remember one quote from Terrorizer, and it said, "Come back, Cold Chamber, all is forgiven."
Wow.
Their review of System of a Down's first album. They'll probably still stand by that now with Terrorizer. I love the
Yeah.
magazine, if it, yeah, no, they're great. I mean, I've caught them live a few times back in the day, and they were a bit inconsistent live, not gonna lie, but they were always fun.
Yeah.
Always like, and whenever I play anything of Toxicity at the rock clubs, people just flock to the dance floor. It's like one of those like massive albums in the community anyway. Bring Me the Horizon, yeah, they've kind of gone strength for strength. They've adapted, they've changed, they've gone back, they've gone forward. They're doing a lot. And they've, I mean, headlining Download this year, that was
it was amazing,
massive. And it's one of those bands that I've sort of been hot and cold on, not gonna lie. But it was great to see a band like that headline something along those lines, because it's been a while since we've had a new headliner, if you will. So it's just kind of, it's just good to watch. Like I said, they're pulling like this UK, they're giving attention to this UK centric scene that we've got going. And yeah, I mean, Suicide Season, I mean, people love that album. So it's and then Slipknot, I mean, there's not much else I can say about Slipknot.
No.
I mean, I absolutely love that band. I've one of the most insane gigs I've ever been to has been theirs. I saw them at the Astoria back in, I want to say 2099.
Yeah.
I have never feared for my life more in a mosh pit. Have shows. I mean, I've been in some pretty violent mosh pits, like hardcore shows, but they're all, yes, this one was just absolute. It was just like a, I don't know how to describe it, but it was just insane. And yeah, like I said, they've gone from, again, just kept going, really. Corey's voice is fantastic. It's so versatile. It's it's like it's crazy. I mean, a lot of people laud Mike Patton as a lot of like as a vocalist, and very rightly so. He's got a very impressive range of vocals, but Corey just seems to have this knack of adapting to so many different styles. Like some of the tracks he's released through Stone Sour or anything like that, you wouldn't know he was the front man. So but yeah, no, 3 fantastic albums there. Thank you for that. And finally, what are your hobbies outside of the band? So outside of the music and everything, what do you do to kind of, I don't know, escape, or what are you passionate about?
So I am probably like secretly an old lady. I think like I'm in my 20s, but really I'm like a 70-something-year-old woman. Because I live in the countryside on a farm, and like my hobbies are being with my animals. Like we rescue and rehabilitate a lot of birds, so like ducks, and currently got a pigeon and a crow that we're looking after. Yeah, so being on the farm, spending time with my pets and my animals is like my favorite thing, just being outdoors and having some welly boots on, getting muddy, and yeah, just working outdoors. I love it. Absolutely love it.
That's amazing. It's a total disconnect from VEXED. I
So different. Yeah.
so different. It's just kind of like seeing you in like some of those videos and stuff, and then just picturing you on the farm, surrounded like doing this sort of Ace Ventura
Yeah.
is your pet
Yeah.
towards you.
But that's the thing. My day-to-day life is so so different to me, to the person that I am in the band, because it's great to have that outlet of day to day. I'm a very quiet, I don't know, I suppose peaceful, passive person, and I don't like letting my emotions out. And so VEXED is just all of that
Yeah,
times 10. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah.
crazy. That's amazing. How did you get into that sort of side of things? Is it something that obviously you've been in your family, or is it something you kind of always like aspired to do in as much as like animal rescue or even owning a farm?
Yeah, it was my granddad. He bought the farm about 45 years ago, when property didn't cost anything.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be able to afford it now. But yeah, he bought it years ago when it literally cost nothing, and had loads of kids, and then those kids had load of grandkids, and now there's great grandkids, and we all just grew up and were allowed to have animals and pets so long as we looked after them ourselves,
yeah,
and yeah, did sort of spoiled them rotten. So he was the main reason how we all got into it, and yeah, it's just gone from there. I just have always been surrounded by animals, and it's just like, it's from childhood. It's just been something that I love, and something that I find really peaceful. Like if I'm ever having a bit of a stressy day or not feeling great, just being with my dog or being with my ducks instantly just takes me out of, you know, the crappy side of like social media or anything, and I just remember like, oh yeah, actually this is what really matters.
yeah.
So yeah, that's
That's amazing. I love that. I've got a couple of dogs myself, and
oh, what do you have?
I've got a King Charles Spaniel,
Oh
who we adopted through my in-laws who passed away. About it.
yeah.
They had this dog, and we've taken her in.
Oh
And
lovely.
we've also got a little Westie Schnauzer mix
Oh
that we
no,
adopted over in the States, and brought her back with us when we moved back. So um,
amazing.
yeah, she's my old lady, but she's tiny and yappy.
Oh,
So
how old is
she's
it?
coming up 15. So
Oh,
she's
amazing.
pushing it for a rescue dog. That's really good as well. So
That's
the
amazing.
other one was apparently a purebred, but it's a
Oh,
very
okay.
large King Charles Spaniel. So they're usually
Yeah.
small, but this one's more
Mhm.
Spaniel, I think. But
Oh,
so, but she's
yeah.
absolutely lovely. She's only about 8, I think, in age. So
Oh, okay.
she's a good age, and she's fully trained as well, which was nice,
Oh, amazing.
which is always good. But yeah, so yeah, no, they're great. Like for when you're stressed, like they just seem to
Yeah.
come up, sit on your lap, or sit next
Oh,
to
they do. Yeah. I
you.
couldn't live without my little terrier. She's absolute nutter, but the best thing in my life. Yeah.
They are great. I mean, I got kids. Don't get me wrong, they're great, but the dogs are a constant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're another kid. They're another kid.
exactly. Well, Megan, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today.
No,
Um,
thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
good luck with everything coming up. Obviously, I know couldn't announce it or anything like that, but we know it's coming, so people look out. Headlines
Yeah.
in the UK, and yeah, go see them. Pick up the album. You've got is it out on all formats? Usual.
It is. Yeah. It's out everywhere.
Cool. Streaming services for those that stream and stuff like that. But yeah, cool. Megan, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.